Thank you for tuning in to our second series of Breadcrumbs podcast with me, your host, Barbara Smith. Gather around with your little ones because it's kids' story time. Hello, boys and girls, moms and dads, and whoever may be watching around the world. Thank you for being with me today. I just wanted to let you know that all of the time that we spend preparing for life is not a waste. We learn so many things by just doing things that we might hate doing. We learn things from studying subjects that we might hate, going places we don't like to go. But life teaches us things along the way, and that is not wasted time. I've been working on a bathroom in our house, trying to renovate it. I don't know if any of you have been involved in anything like that. But the preparation time sometimes is much more time consuming. It takes much longer than just actually doing. I'm working on a countertop now, and I had to sand it, make it smooth, get all my paint ready, my paint brushes ready, find everything that I needed. All of that took longer than just to paint the top of that countertop one time. I might have to put another coat. And someday, somebody might see that countertop and just say, "Oh, how beautiful." And it is going to be beautiful, but they're not going to realize and know and think about all of the time it was spent to go get the wood, to get the paint, to get the brushes, to sand, and all the things that were done. They're not even going to think about that, but they're going to see a beautiful countertop. And that's how life is. All the things that we do and learn along the way, people may not know, wow, I hated science, or wow, I really hated reading. I hated my math teacher. All of these different things that happen to us along life's way, people aren't going to realize when you might be the boss, a big old boss in a big old building somewhere, running a company, calling the shots, telling them what to do. They're not going to be thinking about the math you had to learn and the science that you hated. So we have to just learn as we go and make every moment count. I wanted to tell you a story about a little boy named David. We find this story in the Bible in the Old Testament. And he did just that. He took advantage of the time that he had while he was watching sheep. Even from a young age, he was sent out into the field to be a shepherd. Was he called to be a shepherd for the rest of his life? Probably not. Were you called to be a garbage man just because your mother asked you to take out the garbage? Probably not, although we need shepherds because we have sheep, and we also need garbage men because we have garbage. So we do need people to work in those vocations, those lines of work, but it may not be our calling. But because you were born into the household, you participate in the chores, you obey your mom and dad, you take out the garbage. You learn things along the way about the procedure of how to do it. When is the best time to take it out? How to put the new bag in, how to be responsible, how to be obedient. These are things that you're learning along the way just by taking out the garbage. That's just a little example, but all of life is that way. And so David was not necessarily called to be a shepherd, but because he was born into a family, he had 8 older brothers. He was the young one of the bunch, and I guess maybe tending the sheep wasn't the best job in the family or the best chore, but it had to be done. And so his dad, Jesse, sent him out into the fields to watch the sheep. What do you do when you watch sheep, one might ask? Well, you've got to make sure they don't run off. You've got to make sure that you take them to green pasture, to where they can find the best grass, take them to eat. You've got to be able to find water for them, show them where to find water. As David was doing this job, he learned how to do this. He learned how to lead them to the water, lead them to the grass, lead them back to the shepherd's fold in the evening time. He learned all of these skills. But in the meantime, all day long, sitting with the sheep, looking at the sun or trying to find shade, maybe it was very hot, all of this time that he had on his hands, he used it very wisely. So he learned skills that were not only shepherding skills, but other skills. He learned to play the harp. He learned to write songs. He learned to pray. He realized that God was all around him. He realized that God's presence was with him. He learned how to talk to God. He learned how to talk to the sheep, and he learned that sheep follow someone. They're not natural leaders. He learned that the sheep have to be protected. And so because of this, there's wild animals around. He learned how to use the sling. He had a little slingshot, and he learned how to get the rocks out of the water, the brook, and put the rocks in there and pull that thing back, and he learned how to hit the mark. He practiced with the slingshot. And the Bible says that one time he had to kill a lion. One time he had to kill a bear trying to save the sheep, because that was the job that he had been given by his father Jesse. But he didn't only learn how to protect the sheep, he learned how to do other things. He learned how to use the big old staff that they call. They had rods, they had staffs, and the shepherd's staff had a big old hook on the end of it. And he would use that hook maybe to pull the little sheep. If it was wandering away off the path, he'd pull that little sheep back into the fold with his big old hook. He learned how to use these things, and he learned other skills that were not even pertaining to shepherding, but were pertaining to life. He prepared himself for life. Did he know what was coming up ahead of him? No, he did not. We do not know what is coming up ahead of us in our lives. But as we learn and live and do and obey and go through life studying, go through life doing, we learn these things and we trust in the Lord that He is going to lead us in our life to the right things, through the right path, to our right calling. And one day, the father of David called him and said, David, I need you to come to the house, get this package that I've made ready with cheese and bread in it, and go down to where they are fighting the battle and your brothers are in the war. I need you to go and take them food. So one more chore that he had to do, right? Was he called to be in the war? No, not yet, because he was too little. He was too young. And so he was just the little errand boy. He was just going to take his brother's food. So he took the little package his dad had ready, and he walked on his way, and he got to where the edge of the war was, found his brothers and gave them the package and said, what's going on here? What's going on here? Because he was young, he was very curious, and he heard a big old thundering voice, and he said, what's going on? Who's that big old guy out there? What's happening? They were like, David, go on home. You've done what Dad asked. You brought us the food. Go on home. And he said, I want to know what's going on here before I leave. And this big old man out there was thundering and mocking and saying, har, 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 you guys can't win. Send me your biggest man and we'll fight. I'll fight whoever you send. Go ahead, bring them. And it was a big old Philistine giant. And his brothers told him, that is Goliath. He is a giant, and he is from the Philistine camp over on the other side, and he is challenging us to come and fight him. But he is a giant, and there's no one that wants to go out there and fight a giant. And so David said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Somebody's got to go out there and fight that giant so we could win this war. We are the people of God, and we should go out there and fight and win this war. Of course, his brother said, David, don't be ridiculous. Go back home. Go back to our father and back to the sheep. And he would not hear it because nobody else would go out there and fight Goliath. So he went to King Saul and he said, I know I'm not strong. I don't have any armor, but I'm going to go out there and I will fight that giant. And of course, Saul, the king, said, no, 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 no. Go back to the sheep. Tried to dissuade him, tried to tell him this was not going to work. And David wouldn't hear about it. So Saul said, okay, if you're going to go out there and try to fight this giant and I can't stop you, then put on my armor so you can be protected. So David started to try to put on this armor. And Saul was also a very tall man. He wasn't a giant, but he was a big, tall man. And David was a short little, barely a teenager and tiny and not a man yet. And he started putting on all this armor, started trying to walk, trying to hang on to the shield, trying to put the old helmet on his head. And he was just teeter-tottering around and he couldn't hardly walk. And he said, this is not going to work. I haven't tried this armor. I haven't proven it. I haven't fought with it before. I've never been in a battle before with this armor. I can't do it. I'm going to go out with the weapons that I have learned to use. What was the weapon that he learned to use as a shepherd? The sling, his little sling he had in his hand was all he had, but he knew how to use it. Another thing that he knew was God. Remember, he had learned how to pray all of that time when he was a shepherd, sitting day after day after day in the fields. He had talked to God. He had prayed to God. He had made songs and psalms and poems to God and about God. And he was ready. He trusted that God was going to be with him. He went out into the field, into the valley where the big old giant Goliath was, huge giant Goliath was, and he said, I am here to fight. The giant Goliath had such a good belly laugh. He was a big old rolling on the ground, LOLing. He thought that was the funniest thing. He said, you can't send a man out to me to even try to fight me. Now you're sending a boy? What is this all about? And he just thought that was hilarious. And he was mocking and making fun. And David just stood there and let him get it out of his system until he was hushed and he could get a word in. He said, you come to me with a sword and a shield, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. He's having to look up at this big old giant who is not too far away from him. And he said, I'm coming to you in the name of the Lord. He didn't say, I'm coming to you with a sling. But he bent down and he picked up 5 smooth stones. And he told the giant, I'm coming to you in the name of the Lord, because he trusted God was going to help him. He took that sling and he went round and around. I don't know if you've heard that song about David that says, and the sling went round and round and round and round, round and round and round. And one little stone went up in the air and the giant came tumbling down. He hit the giant right in the head and the giant crashed on the ground. And he went and he ran up to him and he took his own sword. He took Goliath's sword and he chopped off his head and he held it up and said, "He came to us and meant us harm, but we came to him in the name of the Lord." And guess what was happening? All of the other Philistines, they were running away. They were running away. They were running away on the other side. And what was happening on David's side, his brothers, the Israelites, and all of his friends, they were saying, "Yes, yes. Saul has killed his thousands, but David has killed his 10,000s." They were cheering him on. But David knew that it was the Lord. David knew that it was because he had spent time with God, learned skills, talked to the Lord, and did all of this preparing while he was sitting there watching a bunch of sheep. He didn't waste his time. He didn't just sit there doodling. He learned some things. He trusted God because he learned some things while watching the sheep. If you have a lot of time on your hands, or you have to go to school, of course you do, take advantage of it. Realize that is not wasted time, that you are learning things about school, about math, about science, about reading, but also about patience, about trusting, about others, other people at school. You're learning to be kind. You're learning to be patient. And you're learning to trust the Lord day by day. And He will lead you just like He led the boy David, who won, with the help of the Lord, won a great battle for the Israelites that day before he ever went back to his dad Jesse and back to the sheep. And God blessed his life from that time on, and there are a lot of stories about David in the Bible that maybe we'll still get to on another day. But thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this story about David and the big old giant Goliath, and I hope you'll learn to trust the Lord along your way each and every day, and that you'll join me again next time for another story. Until then, bye-bye. Thank you for stopping by. That's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Until next time, bye-bye.